Bollendo?
Sì.
4.
So here we go with our living history. I've been thinking about this for a few months, so let's see how it goes.
This is like an interrogation.
So are we excited? What's your first name?
Clifton.
What's your full name?
Clifton Edward Vickers.
How did you get that name?
My grandfather Schuman's name was Clifton, first name. Grandfather Vickers, his first name was Edward. So that's how I got Clifton Edward.
Okay. Did you have a nickname?
But
How did you get that name?
my grandfather Schuman,
Okay.
his name was Clifton, and they didn't call him Clifton, so he just called me Bud. Nicknamed all grandchildren. Mine's the only one that continued through my life. Well, Hirsch was 2 years older than me, so he started learning it before me, so he taught me the moves and square dancing that made me as good as he was.
Right.
In our group,
Did you guys
There was-
dance together?
huh?
Did you guys dance together?
No, we danced with girls. At the square dance, you have partners,
Yeah. But I didn't know
but we
what you were
danced.
teaching.
We danced in the same form.
Right.
This thing worked down to where there were just four that was under her thumb, continuing on another.
Right.
And my mother was a seamstress, so she made us all Western outfits, shirts and everything. But we went far enough in that we got to square dance on Uncle Bob Hardy's television show.
Oh, wow.
And I have a picture of one of the shirts that Mom made in my picture out there. That's what that picture was.
Wow.
And we have bicycles and things in that town, and just common ordinary country town. Then we moved over where Mom lives. Things had got really hard, you know. Everybody was struggling to survive. But probably the one thing that me and her loved more than anything was when we got there, we didn't hardly have groceries. But there was where Grandma lived, there's a woods and there's all kinds of area where you can go fishing and hunting. And the first thing we started doing was picking berries. It was that season, and my mom camped, for winter. And then if anybody had an apple tree that was producing big time, or peach tree, we'd go, if they had more than they needed, they'd call us and we'd go get that. So we started getting our canned goods built up for the winter. But then the meat supply, see, we hadn't been there long enough to have any animals,
Right.
no calves, no hogs or chickens or anything. The first year we lived there, this only was this important at one time. Hunting and fishing became very important to me and her, because this is the truth. If Mom wanted to have rabbit today for supper, me and him go hunting. She wanted to have squirrel, we go hunting. She wanted to have fish, we go fishing.
Right.
And that was the meat supply for that year,
Yeah.
okay? But we got some pigs and we got some chickens and stuff that took us from that stage on. But at the very beginning, but from then on, me and her always go get game if Mom wanted. Even when we had our own pork and our own chickens and everything,
Right.
if she wanted to have fish, we'd just go get fish. If we couldn't catch enough, we'd just take a seine and seine them out of the creek. You know, and the game warden didn't care. He knew everybody out in that part of the country starved to do it. But that's how we passed a lot of our time over there doing that, and then we started working. We started picking strawberries to make our money for school clothes, actually when we was about, I was about 7, Hurst was about 9. Everything happened. He was just 2 years older than me, and he done it first, then he taught me how to do it. But then the times got a little better. Dad's finances started getting better, so me and her started working for farmers, you know, just whatever was necessary. But by the time we were 13 years old, the time I was 13 years old, we was running a straw truck and a hay truck for a farmer by ourselves, just me and him. We'd go out and do that 'cause to make the money. So then Hurst went ahead, and when he was 16, he got a job in town, and that left me home with the family, my little brother and little sister, to take care of my mom and dad works after school.
So would you say that you had a favorite toy when you were growing up?
At what phase?
Just something that sticks out to
Yeah,
you.
I think probably some of the most attractive things me and Hurst had was that truck I told you about earlier. And then we traded a calf for a motor scooter. And that motor scooter was the beginning of our motorcycle series.
Right.
And naturally we called on our grandpa again to help us out because it wasn't running.
Right.
And then he had one that was needed repaired. So we wound up with, we had 2 of them running.
Right.
And then Hurst moved his from a motor scooter to an old 45 Indian. And then when he moved up from that to a better motorcycle, well, I got the 45, see. And that's, when Hurst had the 45 though, and I had a motor scooter, that's how I got my leg hurt real bad.
Yeah.
We was leaving Grandpa's one night, and his lights went out on the motorcycle, and I had the lights on mine, but it was just at the brink of needing them. And his died up in the road, and I come down the road trying to catch up with him so he could have lights. And when I kicked mine on, see, and he was sitting in the middle of the road with him on it, and I hit the back of it. But that was, the motorcycles started in our life right there, and we both
How old were
really
you?
got into motorcycles. We hadn't lived there but about 3 summers till we both had motor scooters, so I'd probably been about 13.
13. Wow. Okay.
That was when we started making money. Like I say, was a little bit later on. We just worked with the family to survive for the first few years, you know. But when we started working out, where we was making money, then but just there's always something come along to help you and take care of you. One year we didn't have much work, and they put a pipeline in through a guy's cornfield right by Sanford. They knocked down probably 5 or 6 acres of corn when he was doing it. And he knew that we needed work and needed money. So he first came and said that if we picked the corn up, we could have half of it. And then he came back and he said, I'm embarrassed. He said, you guys can just have it all. So that particular year, we made a lot of money. We just pile the corn up, and a friend of ours would take the elevator in the truck. And that year, we come out where we had money for the next year, no problem.
Wow. What about you, Pop?
There's an event here that's important in both of our history that did have a lot to do with everything. And I want to make sure we get this worked in all the way through it. Her dad, when he got home from the military, his dream was to have a motorcycle shop, okay? When he got home, he got started in a motorcycle shop. And he sold BSA and Triumph, okay? My granddad was the Indian dealer for Terre Haute. And they had a Harley shop. And they had clubs, okay? And there wasn't anything like a Hell's Angel club.
Like just riding
They
clubs.
were strictly people who wanted to get together and enjoy life.
Right.
There wasn't anything to do big time. But in those days, all motorcycles that most people rode were big, great big 74s and stuff, you know. But her dad's old Triumph and Honda, and they were fast and the fastest really,
Right.
and everything. But they were a little bit smaller bike. They basically looked a lot like they do yet today, you know. But what this brought on in our lives was when those clubs would have an event. Okay, the event wasn't just for Harley people and they'd have their event. BSA and Triumph people and they'd have their event, or Indian people didn't have their event. When they had an event, everybody came, and there might be 100 of them. Believe it or not, back in those days, there might be 100 bikes show up to these events. My grandpa had 68 acres, and it was an ideal place for these. When they had a field meet now, a field meet meant that they would have the events there would be like a potato race. Which the women sat on the back. They had 4 barrels set out in a rectangular shaped thing. And whoever could get around there, go around each barrel, dump a potato in that barrel, and get back with the best time won. So, and they had slow races, like they just see just how slow they could run. And those kind of things was what was in the field meets.
Right.
Well, they had mud runs too. That meant they just take all fenders off of them and just start down through the woods and any place they could go across a creek or anything, so they could make sure that most guys couldn't make it through. But whoever came out of that at the very end and crossed the finish line won it. And out of all of them, there might only be 10 or so. But we both had a lot of time. Our families would all go to that. And this is what's really important to me about it all. I loved all of it, and I know she had a good time with it. But the very first time that I ever saw your mother, she was about 8 or 9 years old, and her dad rode her across the field, and I was coming out of the wood, and they come up by me on a motorcycle, and she was sitting on a tank, and I never saw anything any more beautiful in my life. And I was a strictly heel person, you know. Matter of fact, if she even probably remembered seeing me, I probably didn't even have any shoes on and somebody else's pants and a whole shirt, you know.
Do you remember seeing her?
I fell in love with that image, that moment. And I just well go ahead and finish this story. But as time went on, I got to see her from time to time, and the thing kept growing in me, you know. I kept just thinking how beautiful she was. I wish we had a picture of her on that motorcycle. Her dad, she had long curls. She's just beautiful.
I do remember seeing him later. I don't remember the
But
first time.
a lot of time went by with all that, and I got to see her occasionally, and every time I saw her, I felt better about her, you know.
Right.
And I'd grown up and I'd bought a Triumph off her dad, and I'd been to Paris to a motorcycle race. They used to have a race up there. And I was coming back down 150, and they was pulling up out of a shortcut from 150, and I saw her again on the back of that motorcycle was her dad, and she was growing, and she was more beautiful than I ever believed she'd ever be.
Right.
And that minute, I made up my mind somewhere or another, I was going to get to know her for sure now, because we was beginning to be adults.
So here's a little tougher question. If you were to write a book on what it took to have a successful marriage, what would some of the names of some of the chapters be? What are some key things to have?
Well, it's like I told all my grandkids. You don't just get married and live happily ever after. It takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of struggles. And I tried to tell him, you can't just give up. I don't know what my chapters would be, you know?
Well, someplace in the first few years of your marriage, one of the partners has to realize that there has to be considerations for different emotions and different feelings and pressures. Now, Mom was always an excellent person, as far as I'm concerned, helping me on the emotional level of it. If you can control your emotions, you can work everything else out. But if you let your emotions overwhelm you, then you can't be happy. And there's one problem that I had that Grandma helped me through, or Mom helped me through, just great. And the adjustment that your mother had to make was, she wasn't a selfish person. She would give anything she had to make things happen. But she had to adjust to decisions being made by two people and agree, you know, having total agreement. Now, in my position, since I've been raised with three other people, it wasn't hard for me to realize that giving a little bit to make it work was what I'd always done. And as soon as Grandma adjusted to where she gave, now, for her to ever say she's sorry, yet to this day, this fight won't come out. And
I do better now.
Once we got established, though, the power struggle, we got that worked out early on, and I knew that the only way it was going to work was there was no power struggle. There had to be a union that was as near equal as you could make it. Now, if a man will just admit in a marriage that it has to be somewhere 60-70 woman's way and the rest his way, it works, and I accepted it.